Good morning, my friends, and welcome back to what essentially has become part two of this week's vlog. I started a vlog. You can lie down, my baby. It's okay. You can use me as your pillow. Sorry, guys. He's just finished his breakfast, so I think he's being a little needy. I think he wants to take a nap, but he loves using me as his pillow. So it might take him some time to find his place, but I think we're all good. What I was saying is that I started this vlog on Monday and it was supposed to be a quick shopping vlog, but it quickly ended up turning into a live update. Then we talked about my skincare routine. Then we went to Hermes together, which took me hours and hours and hours. It was a fun trip, but still, it's not what I originally planned. And then because I wanted to upload this vlog on Thursday, I basically had to split it into two parts. So part one was a live update and us going to Hermes, which if you want to get some updates on Hermes news and what's going on at Hermes, make sure to have that video linked up here for you. And then today I went to Louis Vuitton, Prada, and what was the third store that I went to? Louis Vuitton, Prada, and Chanel. I went to all these stores on Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday, so the day after I was at Hermes, because yesterday was Thursday and I spent the entire day wrapping up that vlog, putting it live, coming up with the thumbnail, the description box. There is a lot that goes into uploading a YouTube video. It's not just quite as easy as filming it and then uploading it. You, of course, have to edit it, insert the footage, insert B-roll, all those different things. And even once you're done editing, there's still a lot to do. So I spent a few hours doing that yesterday, but I know that so many of you enjoyed that vlog, which makes me so incredibly happy. I heard from some of you that you missed my vlogs, so this summer you'll definitely get a few more of them. And today we're picking up where we left off. So today is Friday morning, and then I went to Chanel, Prada, and Louis Vuitton on Wednesday. Let me just make sure in the viewfinder that it's not blurring me too much because the exposure was off when I filmed the first part of this vlog, and a lot of the footage I was completely blurred in just because it was overexposed. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen today, but I think it should be fine. Anyway, I did that video, then I went shopping on Wednesday, and I wanted to catch you up on all the things that I saw at Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and Prada. What was great is that I didn't realize that Chanel was actually launching their pre-fall winter collection the day I ended up going. It wasn't planned, it wasn't intentional. It just happened to work out perfectly, which meant that I got to see a lot of the new pieces, and you're getting a first peek into what Chanel had available the day that they launched this collection. So if you're a big Chanel fan, I think you'll really enjoy some of these pieces. I was able to take some videos and also some pictures. Then I went to Louis Vuitton to look at some trunks, potentially for my 30th birthday. I don't think it's something that I'm going to pull the trigger on. Well, let's see how it goes. I want to show you what I was shown. They actually had quite a few trunks because what I was told is that they had just had an event which they got sent a ton of stock for. So again, that was a lucky coincidence. It wasn't planned, but it just all happened to work out. I got to see quite a few of their traditional trunks and also some special pieces. And I could also show you what I would do with the trunk if I were to buy it. And then we also went to Prada just for the quickest of brows. And I'm really excited to share with you some of these new pieces that stood out to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and make myself look and feel a little bit more presentable. Maybe make myself another pot of tea. I've already had one pot of tea and I had a couple slices of toast, but I am really feeling quite sleepy today. In fact, I could not stop yawning this morning, which never really happens. I don't know what's going on. I mean, it has been a productive week. I was able to get a lot done, but what I think has made me quite tired is just a lot of socializing. I pretty much had something going on every single evening. I was either seeing friends in person or I was catching up with friends over FaceTime, which I love. I'm not for a single second complaining. I love nothing more than catching up with my friends, but I am kind of socially drained and I've also been going to bed quite late. I think I've been getting to bed between like 11:30 and midnight every single night this week, which is really late for me. So I'm going to leave you here with a little mash up of everything that I saw in store, and then I'll come back and give you a little bit more context and share with you everything that I think about some of the standout pieces. Do I look that different? Probably not, but I do feel a lot more like an actual human being. But I'm going for a run in the forest right after this, so I did not want to do my hair for all the birds and all the bugs. I thought it would be easier for me to just throw on a cap, and I'm worried about the lighting. I really hope I'm not going to look as overexposed as I did in the last video. So let me move you just a tiny bit. I really hope that the lighting is better this time than it was in my last video, but I guess only time will tell. I closed all my curtains and I tried to position myself in a way that hopefully I will not end up being overexposed. Anyway, I do think it is the worst possible spot to sit in, considering that I was going to show you where I wanted to put that Louis Vuitton trunk, or if I bought that Louis Vuitton trunk, where I would put it. So this is where I would want to put it instead of that box right behind me. That's where the box, or the trunk, I should say, would go. Again, not convinced. Let me know what you guys think, but I really hope you enjoyed that little montage of all the pieces that I saw. Well, not all of them, but some of the standouts. And then I have all the pictures pulled up that I took in the stores that I wanted to highlight or share with you my thoughts on. It's a different way of doing a shopping vlog, but I hope you'll enjoy it. I thought we could do something different. So let's start at Louis Vuitton, considering that that was my first destination. Why did I go to Louis Vuitton? As I told you at the beginning of this video, I have been toying with the idea. Actually, for many years, I've been wanting to add a trunk to my collection. For years, I was going back and forth. Should I start with one of the larger trunks that I could use as a coffee table or as a bench in front of my bed? Or do I want one of the smaller accessories? And I thought, since I am turning 30, it could be a nice sort of heirloom piece to add to my collection. And I wanted to just go to Louis Vuitton to see what they had available, and I was quite lucky because they had quite a few of them available, which was definitely not the case in the past. And it's actually a lot easier these days to get your hands on a Louis Vuitton trunk because they can be custom ordered, and the lead time is nowhere near as long as it used to be. So what I was told is that most trunks, at least when it comes to smaller trunks, they take somewhere between 4 to 6 months to be delivered, which I really don't think is that bad. Now, I assume that the lead time is a little bit longer if you were to order a larger trunk to use as an interior piece, but some of the smaller trunks that I will share with you, they tend to have in stock. And even if they don't, or even if you do a custom order, which is something that we discussed in the store, it really doesn't take that long. So there were two trunks that I really wanted to see. One of them is the traditional accessory trunk, which comes completely plain. That's the one that I showed you in that was the main trunk that I showed you in that previous video, and it comes in a ton of different finishes. I saw it in the traditional monogram. The reason there were a couple of them on the table is because the interior color changes. So it comes with navy blue, it comes with a Tiffany blue lining. You can also pick it up with a red lining, which by the way, that does not change the price. Then it was also available in the monogram Eclipse, which is the black version, which comes with kind of like a silver hardware, which as far as I understand is probably a little bit longer lasting than gold, because gold starts looking tarnished quite quickly. So you might have seen that some of the boxes I was shown had already started aging and oxidizing, and that's purely because they were on display. It's not like they were in heavy use, but as soon as you peel the sticker off, they immediately start aging, and it's just kind of part of the charm. So I first looked at that accessory trunk. I believe that is somewhere around 5,000 euros. I will make sure to leave the prices up on the screen here. But then what I came to realize is that if I wanted to replace the box behind me with that trunk, it would probably be just a little bit too small and too narrow. So what I was suggested to try is maybe to get the watch trunk, which I think fits 8 watches. As you know, I am not big on watches. I'm not a big watch collector, but you can actually have that watch pillow removed, which would house 8 watches, and then just use it as a trunk for what I would use this trunk for. I mean, I wouldn't really use it. I would probably just put things like letters, postcards, little memories in there. So it would ultimately become a time capsule or a little memory box, but it's not something that should be functional in my life, at least. It would be more of a decorative piece rather than something that I'm going to be using on a regular basis. Anyway, if I was to buy a trunk at this point, I do think that I would get the 8 watch box, which I think is somewhere around, at least in canvas, it's somewhere around, if I remember correctly, they said around 8,000 euros, and it's available in the monogram canvas in several different colors. It also comes in the damier, which is the checkered print, which I actually think looks really nice. I'm not a big damier person, but when it comes to a trunk, considering that it is an archival heritage Louis Vuitton print, I personally quite like it, even in brown, which in a bag I very, very much dislike. And then it also comes in epi leather, but it's something that has to be custom ordered, which is how I know that custom orders take somewhere between 4 to 6 months. And I think there's actually quite a big price jump. So if I remember correctly, the larger watch box is around $8,000, 8,000 euros. And then if you were to buy it in epi leather, it would be just under 10K. So there is, I think, a 2,000 or a 2,500 euro price jump between leather and canvas. Even though I love the epi leather trunks because I have this bookcase in black, I do think that if I was to get it in black epi leather, it would blend in just a little bit too much. But then again, I'm not really a monogram person, and that's why I'm kind of torn. It's something that I think I do want to have eventually, but it's not really something that I'm completely in love with. I'm more in love with the idea rather than the actual piece, which is why I'm so torn. Anyway, let me know what you think about Louis Vuitton trunks. I thought it would be quite an interesting thing to have a discussion about. And then something special that they also had available is the alphabet trunks. So they do these trunks that are in every letter of the alphabet. You can get them in really any letter. They only had an A, which I thought was a weird letter to send to Louis Vuitton. I would have assumed that they would have an L or a V on display, but it happened to be an A. Of course, I would get a G or a P for my little baby. And of course, my middle name starts with a P as well. So yeah, that is also a really fun piece, but I'm not a Louis Vuitton collector. I think it's more of a novelty piece. It's for those who already have a really established Louis Vuitton collection. Not personally what I would start my collection with, but I wanted to tell you my experience with the trunks. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to measure how big this box is right behind me, because the size I love, and then I might just Photoshop a trunk in there to see what it would look like, which is actually so funny. I have to show you guys this picture. When I was looking at Louis Vuitton, I came to realize that they had launched, or they've had a puppy or a dog collection for quite a while, but they have recently expanded on it, and they came out with this little beret for dogs, which is sold out. And also it's not something I would ever buy for Pi because it would drive him crazy. And if I couldn't use it on him, then I'm not going to spend hundreds and hundreds of euros on it. Anyway, long story short, they had this little beret, and then I was wondering what it would look like on Pi. Even if it was in stock and I wanted to see it on him, I probably wouldn't, just because he sheds so much that it would ruin the head just me trying it on him. And I think it would be disrespectful to send something back that is covered in his hair. So I was like, what if I Photoshop this head onto him to see what it would look like? It is the literal cutest thing I have ever seen. And then I might just do the same thing with the trunk to see what it would look like. I also had a look at other things. The reason I'm looking down is because I have my laptop in front of me. So I'm just looking at some of the pictures that I took. They really didn't have anything new at Louis Vuitton, which was quite sad. I mean, I specifically asked, do you have anything new that would be interesting to see? They said not really. They said that even though they had this event, it was more about some of the more casual pieces, which the Dutch clientele would appreciate, not their most up-to-date runway pieces. But they had some beautiful capucines. They had them in different exotic finishes. There was one in ostrich, where the handle was made of gold and then the body of the bag was made of this slightly metallic or pearlescent ostrich. I love the capucine. I do think that it is the creme de la creme when it comes to Louis Vuitton. It cannot be compared with any other Louis Vuitton piece, not in terms of quality, in terms of craftsmanship, materials, and also look. I do think it is the most elegant Louis Vuitton bag money can buy. And then they had a really cute little cosmetic pouch with the new cherry print on it. I wasn't really interested in this particular launch from Louis Vuitton. It was just not my cup of tea. I know it is insanely hyped and you could barely get your hands on any pieces from this collection, but I think the cherry collection was my most favorite. And what I loved about this is that the cherries almost looked like stickers. It had a really cool, nostalgic 90s feel to it. It kind of looked like something that you would have carried to high school with all these stickers. I really liked it. I thought it was a really fun and playful little piece. And then let me see what else I took pictures of. I also saw these shoes. I have been telling you that one of the biggest trends for the season is these extremely low profile, almost belly slipper like flats or sneakers, both for men and women. I, of course, always talk about the jet sneakers from Hermes. Then I saw these at Louis Vuitton, and then we'll also move on to another pair from Prada. But I loved these shoes from Louis Vuitton. Again, these had kind of a nostalgic PE style feel to them, and I thought that they were so cool. If you're a Louis Vuitton fan, definitely give these a try because I think that they would be really flattering. For years, I did not think that flat shoes like these would suit me, but I tried a pair at Prada and my mind was completely changed. Speaking of which, we can just move on to what I saw at Prada. So let me put in a picture of these Prada sneakers, which they've been doing for a couple of seasons now. They are not new for this season, but they continue expanding on this line because it has been incredibly popular. They do these both for men and women in a ton of different colors. And the reason I never tried this is because I never thought that they would suit me. They are extremely, extremely thin. You can pretty much feel anything and everything under your feet when you're wearing these shoes. I mean, do take my review with a grain of salt considering that I don't own this pair. But I tried them, and even just walking around in the store, I could feel the carpet underneath my feet. I am considering buying these. The reason I did not buy them on the spot is because I had gym shorts on and gym sneakers, and it definitely did not go with the outfit, but it looked a lot better than I thought it would. So I'm going to go back to Prada maybe next week, or maybe I just get them online and try them on at home. But I do want to try them on with an actual pair of trousers or a pair of jeans because I like them a lot more than I thought I would. So maybe I think they're called the slip-on or the slipper or the collapse, something along those lines, because the idea is that they are so flat that you can pack them completely flat in your suitcase and they kind of collapse because they are made partially of nylon, which you would expect from Prada, and partially of suede, but I'm pretty sure they're also doing it in full leather now. Anyway, I really liked this ivory color because, I'm not big on the dark colored sneakers, but this is something that I might just, I'm going to go and order these later today, and then maybe we can unbox them next week. Not that I'm planning on doing another vlog next week. Let me know if you enjoyed this vlog and you'd like to see more videos like this from me. I'd be happy to do that, and maybe we can unbox some things. Maybe I'll order them and then let's just see what we think. Another thing that I saw at Prada, again, is these Mary Jane ballet slippers, both in leather and suede for women, with some matching suede banana bags. I love these. I thought that they were really, really beautiful. I am going through a little bit of a Prada mood. Also, there were 2 bags available for men, which are inspired by the Bonnie bag, I think it's called, which Prada has been doing for women. It's inspired by one of their archival pieces. And the Bonnie bag I wasn't a big fan of at first because it was more of an east-west orientation, which if you've been with me for any amount of time, you know that I am not big on east-west bags. But they ended up coming out with an oversized duffel-like take on this design for men in leather and in suede. And I was not only blown away by the style, how great it looked, also how insanely light it was. They literally handed me 2 bags, one of these bunny bags and then just a regular Prada bag. And the difference in weight was shocking. Like, it's insane how lightweight this bag is. It is fully nylon lined, which I know some people will be against, or they'll think that it makes the bag feel a little bit cheaper, but I cannot tell you how light it made this bag feel, which if you're going to use this as a duffel or as a workhorse bag, you do want a bag that's not insanely heavy to begin with, because if you think about it, the bigger the bag, the more you can fit in there, and the more you can fit in there, the heavier it will become. So it's good to have something that is lighter weight to start with, which of course Prada is known for with their nylon bags, but I love that it was a leather bag, but they still kept this functionality element in mind. And I also thought it was extremely reasonably priced. When I looked at that bag, especially in suede, I would have guessed that it was around maybe 6,000 euros, which of course is an insane amount of money to spend on a bag, but not unheard of or unusual these days. But it was only 3,500 euros, which I thought was a great price. So if you're looking for a large and in charge bag, even though it's part of the men's collection, I don't see why you couldn't purchase it regardless of which department you shop. I was really impressed by that. And then I also saw this little belt, which I really wanted to try on. But again, I only had my gym shorts with me because I was going to the gym and it was raining that day. And so I didn't want to wear jeans or anything and then get wet on my way to the gym. So I did not get to try these belts. But you know, if I order those Prada shoes, I might just order this belt too. It's from the women's collection because it's slightly thinner. I'm not really into thicker, wider belts on me personally, but I thought it was really sweet with the little Prada triangle at the end. So that's what I saw at Prada. And then my last stop on Wednesday was Chanel, which I did not realize that they were launching the pre-fall winter collection that day. I really only wanted to, well, it wasn't even my plan to stop by Chanel, but there was no line outside. And I thought, you know, I haven't had a chance to see the Métier d'Art collection in person, which is my most anticipated luxury launch every single year. Even though it's not something that I can usually buy into because the collection is usually extremely opulent and over the top and quite feminine. So the pieces are not made for me, but I appreciate them for what they are, almost like pieces of art. Because if you love exquisitely crafted, extremely detailed pieces, the Métier d'Art collection is for you, because that is as close as you can get to couture techniques without paying haute couture prices and having to be invited to place a bespoke order. So I love the Métier d'Art collection. And since I had not seen them in person, even though I did a dedicated video on some of my favorite standout pieces, I wanted to pass by. And when I did, I was told that it's actually the first day of the pre-fall collection launching. But let me start with the one piece that I tried from the Métier d'Art collection, which I had high hopes for. It's something that I saw online, but I wasn't sure how it would look on me in person. It did not look great. It's certainly not something that I would spend my money on. And the Chanel sales associate that was helping me completely agreed with that. Even she said that it was quite feminine, which is this piece of knit with this beautiful Chinese. It almost reminds me of a print that you would find on a silk print or a fan or one of those lacquered doors. It's incredibly beautiful with these birds and beautiful branches and flowers. Had this sweater been plain black, I think it could have worked, but the base had this silvery metallic sheen to it, which I wasn't a fan of. The fit was really flattering. I love the print, but it just wasn't for me personally. And I think it was something like 3,500 euros. So not for me, but then I also tried a piece of knit from the pre-fall collection that almost felt like a nappy material. It was made of the weirdest, weird in a way that it was very soft, but it felt almost kind of spongy. But I thought I would show you here. The color was nice. It had a tiny little CC on the front, which you know will mean that this piece will sell out, because anything with a CC emblem on it, people will go crazy for. And then one more piece from the Métier d'Art collection that honestly was one of the most exquisitely made pieces I have ever seen. It was this leather bomber jacket, which had this, not only this quilting, which made it really special, but even though it's made of leather, it was lined with this really thick, heavy canvas, or it almost felt like denim on the inside. And it was as if it was somehow the material on the inside, the lining was glued to the leather. Like, it wasn't the traditional lining that's just stitched into a piece. It was fully like bonded onto the leather, which was really special. I've never seen a piece quite like it, so I was blown away by it. I think it was something like 10,500 euros, something along those lines. Beautiful piece. And then they had a ton of these new flap bags, which I don't think these are double flap bags. This light blue seems to be the color of the season for pre-fall winter. You'll see this as a reoccurring color. And they had this little flap bag with the adjustable chain, that's what I should say, where you press this large CC and that allows you to slide it up and down. And if you slide it up, the chain becomes smaller. If you slide it down, it becomes longer. You know how it works. They had this bag, quite a few of these bags, in this really pale light blue, pastel light blue, or they had it in black. Speaking of pastel blue, they had another flat bag with a top handle, which of course has been incredibly popular for the past few years. It seems like Chanel cannot get enough of it because they come out with a new iteration of it every single season. This year, the top handle is made up of these CC chains, which, you know, is interesting. Funny enough, I thought that the caviar this year was a little bit more glossy than usual. Let me know what you think about that, but that's something that I noticed. They had quite a few caviar pieces, and the caviar wasn't quite as grained as it was in the past, and it seemed a lot more glossy to me personally. And this top handle bag, by the way, was also available in black, in case you're interested. And then they also had some of these little vanity case inspired pieces with the CC on the front. And this season, for pre-fall winter, the CC is adorned with some shooting stars, which was quite nice. And by the way, this blue, they also had some beautiful tweed pieces. They had skirts. They had this really fun knitted top with a Coco Chanel, her portrait in the front. It almost looked like a little robot, but blue was definitely the strongest color of this season. And then before we move on to the hard bags, I wanted to show you this wallet on chain with this vintage archival CC embroidery. I love that this bag had no hardware, it had no quilting, but instead it had this tone-on-tone CC embroidery. I asked if there were any other pieces available with this embroidery, and I was really surprised to hear that they did not have anything else. It doesn't mean that they will not get anything else, but at the time, this was the only piece they had, because I would have assumed that they would do this in a large tote bag at least. But I love this. I don't think that the wallet on the chain is worth your hard-earned money, but I really like this archival CC, and I hope to see more of it in the coming month. And then last but not least, let's move on to the hard bag, which is back. So this is a bag that was inspired by 90s Chanel. It's something that Chanel came out with, I think it was last year. It blew up. They had a crazy pre-order on the pre-loved market. These bags were selling for 2-3 times the price, at first at least, because then Chanel brought out another wave of these, and then these bags are back once again in a ton of different sizes. I mean, my store had, I want to say like 4 or 5 of these just on display, and no one was asking for them, at least not when I was there, which would have not been the case when they first dropped these last year. I don't know what you think about these hard bags. I think they're quirky and they're definitely a collector's piece, but to me, it's one of those things that will look really dated and really aged really fast. But my boutique had quite a few of the larger ones, and then they also had this itty bitty card holder size, although I'm not sure if it would fit an actual card because of the shape. And then they had a vanity case right behind it, which the color and the fact that the handle is made of this solid gold, not precious gold, but this gold metal handle, leads me to, sorry, I spy, I think he's dreaming, leads me to believe that it's from the Métier d'Art collection because it's a little bit too ornate and a little bit too opulent for it to be from the pre-fall collection. But I think these were all the pieces that I saw. So that was Chanel, Prada, and Louis Vuitton. I'm trying to think really quick if there was anything else that I wanted to tell you about. I don't think so. So the trunk, let me know what you guys think. Do you think it would go with my style? Would it go with my aesthetic to have a Louis Vuitton trunk right behind me? I don't know. I'll Photoshop it, and if I end up doing that, I'll include some images here. The Prada shoes, I'm going to go ahead and order. And yeah, the only thing that I'm still thinking about, the only thing that really captured my attention was that Hermes double ring, which I should go and read your comments. I hope some of you gave me feedback on that Hermes ring. If you haven't, make sure you go back and watch my previous video. And if you have the time, I would really appreciate your thoughts on that RMS double ring, because that's the only thing that I can think of that I found interesting in any shape or form. But as you can tell, I am not completely in love with it either. But yeah, I would say that the Prada shoes are the only ones that I would go and spend my money on, or the only thing that I think I would actually get my money's worth out of. Let me put it this way. But I cannot wait to hear your thoughts in the comment section. What did you guys think about these pieces? Did you enjoy this vlog? Would you like me to do more vlogs in the coming weeks? I cannot wait to hear from you, and let me know if you've seen any special pieces recently. Have you been shopping, whether that's real shopping or window shopping? Let me know what was your favorite piece that you saw in the recent past. And while you're down there, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I really, really, really appreciate you being here and watching, and I cannot wait to see you back here with a new video really, really soon.